This video will review the customized financial statements. This option allows you to create customized financial statements for the balance sheet and profit and loss while still retaining the integrity of the system-created standard forms. This option is located under the Accounting tab of the ribbon menu and in our Chart of Accounts control group. This feature will utilize Financial Layout Manager, Type Manager, and Element Manager. We will first take a look at the Financial Layout Manager. We'll select one of our financial statements. The Financial Layout Manager is used to create custom financial statements the way you want to see them. Elements and types are used to create the layout. The system-defined financial layouts cannot be edited, but they can be copied. The copy can then be redesigned as needed. Users can add both system-created and user-created types. Users can add both system-created and user-created elements. Adding an element will add both a header and a footer. The header represents where to start the accumulation of account balances, and the footer represents where to stop. Creating a user-defined financial layout will create custom lists under the appropriate financial form. And this would be created for each custom list added. We're going to start by copying our balance sheet. So we're on the balance sheet, we'll select copy. The validation message indicates I do need to have a unique name. So we're just going to call it custom, and then we'll save it. And now you see it on the left-hand side under our list. Making a custom layout the default is done by marking it as default on the financial layout record. This means that this is the layout that will load when the statement is viewed. We're going to check the box for default. We'll save our financial statement layout. Now we'll open up the balance sheet. The name will be the same name followed by the description of the financial layout. Since we marked it as a default, it appears as our default list view on our balance sheet. If no custom layout is marked as a default, the current standard layout will be the form that loads. There is no limit to the number of custom layouts that can be created. Please note, the system-created financial statements will not appear any differently and should be the ones used to verify if the accounts are balanced. If the system-created financials are in balance, any issues should be researched within the custom layout. We will now take a look at the parts that make up the customized financial statements. The first part to review is the Type Manager. Underneath Accounting, under our Chart of Accounts, we'll select Type Manager. Types are the account classification names. On the profit and loss or balance sheet, the account classification names or types are shown here as cash, receivables, inventory, etc. Totals will accumulate and show for the accounts that have this type listed in their account manager. And we'll review that here in a moment. On the balance sheet, there you can see our different types. The system-defined type records have limited editability, such as the description and the ability to not show records of this type when the calculation for the account is 0. This will allow users to filter out accounts that calculate to 0 or those that have not yet had any transactions against them. New custom type records can be created by the user and will have more fields that can be edited. We will first take a look at changing the description for a type record. We will change income from the P&L to revenue. We'll open up our profit and loss statement, and our section at the top shows income, and it shows total income. We'll go back to our type record. We're going to select income. We're going to change this name here to say revenue. We'll save it. Now we'll go back to our profit loss. Refresh. We now see the change was made where it now says revenue. Now back at our type manager, We will now review the option for each type record. We're going to select the newer one set up earlier called Miscellaneous Receivables. Our description, we choose our form for it to appear on. The first checkbox is Show Accounts with No Transaction. This allows users to see an account as soon as it is created, even if it does not have any transactions against it. The second checkbox down is Show Accounts when the balance nets to zero. We're going to take a look at fixed assets for this part. Under fixed assets, we have it checked to show accounts with no transactions. We also have it checked to show accounts when the balance nets to zero. If we take a look at our balance sheet, under our fixed assets section, we can see the accounts that have a zero balance. And then we're going to take a look under accounting, under transactions. For our general ledger 188, we have transactions that net to zero because we have a debit and a credit for this account. On the balance sheet, this account shows as zero, which it should. If we go back to our type, uncheck this box where it says show accounts when the balance nets to zero. So this will remove the accounts that net to zero, and it will also remove accounts that have no transactions at all. Now we'll go back to our balance sheet and refresh. It has now removed accounts that net to a zero balance. The next part of this feature, we're going to take a look at adding a new type and making it appear on your financial statement. Under our type, we've added previously a miscellaneous receivables. We'll open up our financial layout manager. We'll select our custom form. You can either add a new type to the bottom and move it to the correct location, or you could use the red icon to insert a new type. So using the add option down here, would add it to the bottom. If I go up to where I want this to be inserted, we're going to right click on receivables and we're going to insert it below. And then we're going to look up our new type for miscellaneous receivables. And now we've added the new type to our financial layout. We'll go ahead and save our layout. We'll now go out and take a look at our financial statement. Go into the balance sheet. We'll search that as our default. And now under our accounts receivable, we now see a type listed here for our miscellaneous receivables. So now we will review how to add a GL so it appears under the appropriate section. We'll open up accounting. Under our chart of accounts control group, we'll select account manager. Here we're going to select our 125, which is our miscellaneous receivables ledger account. Each account you currently have and any new ones you add show an additional field for your custom statements. Use this field to indicate where your current or new GL accounts should appear on your custom financial statement. By default, the system type option and custom type option will be the same. These two type controls are used to allow you to have the account appear on the custom financial statement under the type that may not exist on the standard financial statement. You will be required to set the standard type to system-defined type to ensure the integrity of the system-created financial statements. On the custom financial statement, we're going to select miscellaneous receivables. Once we select it, we'll go ahead and save. We'll take a look at our balance sheet. And now you see 125 appearing underneath the section for miscellaneous receivables. Now back at our type manager. The next checkbox is include net income and retained earnings, and the following after that is retained earnings. For the include net income and retained earnings, use this checkbox to indicate the section on your balance sheet for retained earnings and net income. The account for retained earnings will show in this type section. The next checkbox, retained earnings. On the system financial statements, there is a type for retained earnings GL account. On the custom financial statements, one type must be set up and checked as retained earnings to show the GL account for retained earnings. These accounts will not print in a section by themselves. They will be included in the type with and include net income and retained earnings. We're going to select our equity retained earnings, and you see our checkbox for retained earnings. This is a flag to mimic our equity retained earnings type. These types of accounts will not print in a section by themselves. Rather, they are looking to be included in a different section. Our next checkbox is income type. This is used to determine which types are included in the 100% calculation for income. The total of income types will then be combined to show a percentage of the 100%, and then the remaining types will show as a percent of this income total. We're going to open our profit and loss statement, select our type with the month and year, and then on our profit and loss, there we can see our 100% total, and then our expense sections. It shows the remaining percentage. The final new part of this feature is the Elements Manager. This is located under the Accounting tab of the ribbon menu, and again under our Chart of Accounts control group, and selecting Element Manager. The system-defined elements have the option of changing the description. These are the groupings of types currently on the financial statements. For example, assets, liabilities, equity, and income. New custom type elements can be created and will have more editable fields. The checkboxes under the element include Show Header. This will show the description as a header. This is also used on a financial layout to indicate where to begin the total calculation. We'll open up our balance sheet and take a look. On the balance sheet, we can identify our headers, one for assets. The next checkbox is Show Footer Calculation. This will be used on a financial layout to indicate where to end the accumulation and where to print the calculation of all the account balances between the header and the footer. Go back to our balance sheet, and we can see our footers. Our next checkbox is to show double line under the footer calculation. This will show a double line under the element footer. This is normally used under elements such as total assets and total liability and equity. We'll take a look at the one that says liability and equity. It has a check mark there. We'll go to our balance sheet. We'll go down to that section. And there's our double underline. We'll go back to elements. The final part of the element is the normal balance. This will be used to define whether the account type normally results in a positive or negative balance. If the calculation has the same balance as the element's normal balance, it will show as a positive on the financial statement. If the calculation has the opposite balance as the element's normal balance, it will show as a negative on the financial statement. So taking a look at the Assets section, we're going to go to Supervise and open up our balance sheet. Under our Assets section, under Receivables, we have Accounts Receivable, which has a debit balance, so it shows as a positive. We have Unallocated Receipts, which normally carries a negative balance, so it shows as a negative because it has a credit balance in that account, and that entire section normally carries a debit balance. We can close our options, and this will conclude the review of the customized financial statements.